The year was 2157. Humanity had just begun to spread across their solar system when the massive ship appeared near Mars' orbit. It was sleek and curved, unlike any human design. After 3 days of tense waiting, they finally sent a message. "We are the Zarkonian Empire. We wish to speak with your leaders." Earth went into a frenzy. Every news channel showed the alien ship. World leaders argued about who should represent humanity. After much debate, they chose Navy Captain Eric Bennett and diplomatic officer Samantha Wright to lead the first meeting. Eric stood tall in his crisp blue uniform as he waited in the airlock of the U.S. Defender. His brown hair was neatly trimmed, and his face showed no fear, though his heart raced. Next to him, Samantha checked her tablet one last time. Her blonde hair was pulled back in a tight bun, and her gray suit was perfectly pressed. "Ready, Captain?" she asked. Eric nodded. "As ready as anyone can be to meet aliens." The airlock hissed open. 3 tall, blue-skinned aliens with 4 arms stood before them. Their eyes were large and silver, without pupils. The one in the middle wore an ornate golden vest that seemed to glow. "I am High Commander Vexlar," the alien in the golden vest said. His voice had an odd metallic quality. "You are the humans chosen to speak for your world." "Yes." Eric stepped forward. "I'm Captain Eric Bennett of the United Earth Navy. This is Samantha Wright, our diplomatic envoy. We welcome you to our solar system." Vexlar looked down at them, his silver eyes blinking slowly. "Your species is younger than we expected. Barely spacefaring. But we wish to learn more about you. We'd be happy to show you our ship," Eric offered. As they walked through the corridors of the Defender, Vexlar and his 2 officers looked around with what seemed like mild amusement. "Your propulsion systems are fusion-based?" one of the officers asked, looking at a display. "Yes," Eric said. "We've mastered fusion technology for our larger vessels." "Quaint," the officer replied. "We abandoned fusion centuries ago." They continued to the weapons bay, where rows of missiles, railguns, and laser arrays lined the walls. The ship's armory chief, Jack Powell, stood proudly by the main tactical display. "These are our primary defense systems," Jack explained. "Our railguns can accelerate projectiles too." "You use physical projectiles," Vexlar interrupted, making a sound that might have been a laugh. "Kinetic weapons, like throwing rocks. Our railguns can penetrate 2 meters of solid steel," Jack said, his face reddening. Vexlar picked up a bullet from a nearby table, examining it between his long fingers. "How primitive. You use chemical propellants to launch metal. We haven't seen weapons like these since our pre-space age." The other Zarkonians were touching the missiles now, their faces showing clear disdain. "Our warships carry quantum disruptors," Vexlar said casually. "They can vaporize small moons. One of our scout ships could destroy this entire vessel without activating its main weapons." Eric felt his jaw tighten, but kept his diplomatic smile. "We work with the technology we have. It's served us well so far." "Yes, I'm sure it has," Vexlar said, placing the bullet back down like it was trash. "Against other humans." Samantha typed notes into her tablet, her eyes never leaving the aliens. She was recording everything. Their technology, their mannerisms, their obvious superiority complex. Later, in the ship's meeting room, Vexlar outlined the basics of galactic politics while barely hiding his condescension. "The galaxy has many species," he explained slowly, as if to children. "Some, like the Drathor Collective, are hostile and expansionist. Others, like us, prefer peaceful trade. Your weapons would not last seconds against either. Then perhaps we could learn from you," Samantha suggested. Vexlar's mouth formed what might have been a smile. "Perhaps, though teaching you would be like teaching cave people about spacecraft. No offense intended." "None taken," Eric said, though his knuckles were white under the table. When the meeting ended, and the Zarkonians returned to their ship, Eric and Samantha stood at the observation deck, watching the alien vessel shimmer in the darkness. They think we're jokes, Eric said quietly. Samantha nodded. Yes, and that might be our biggest advantage. 6 months passed since the first meeting with the Zarkonians. Things had not improved. The aliens continued to treat humans like children, offering only the most basic technologies in exchange for Earth's resources. Many world leaders were angry, but they knew Earth couldn't fight the advanced aliens. On a small research outpost near Jupiter, humans and Zarkonians worked together studying the gas giant storms. The station was called Hope Point, though few felt hopeful there. Lieutenant Alan Cole stood guard at the station's main entrance. He was a tall man with dark skin and sharp eyes that missed nothing. His standard-issue rifle rested against his shoulder. The Zarkonians always laughed when they saw him with it. Still carrying that metal thrower, Lieutenant? Asked Zevran, a Zarkonian scientist, as he passed by. You know it wouldn't even scratch our personal shields. Alan just nodded politely. He had heard it all before. The alarm blared without warning. Red lights flashed throughout the station. Unidentified vessels approaching, the computer announced. 5 ships, not matching any known signatures. Alan ran to the command center. The station's commander, Kate Lawson, was already there, staring at the screen. What is it? Alan asked. Drathor, said a Zarkonian officer, his silver eyes wide with fear. The collective has found us. The Drathor. Alan had heard about them in briefings. They were the aggressive species that even the Zarkonians feared. 3 sleek black ships surrounded the station. They looked like giant insects made of metal. All Zarkonians, prepare for emergency evacuation, the Zarkonian officer announced. We must leave immediately. What about the humans? Kate demanded. Your escape pods are too slow. They would catch you. We will send help after we escape. The Zarkonian didn't meet her eyes. Alan grabbed the officer's arm. You're just leaving us. I'm sorry. Your weapons cannot harm them. You would die anyway. Within minutes, the Zarkonians boarded their emergency shuttle and departed, leaving 20 humans behind. They just abandoned us, whispered Kate, watching the Zarkonian shuttle speed away. Alan checked his rifle. We need to protect the station until help arrives. If it arrives. Kate nodded. What's your plan? Get everyone to the central lab. It has the thickest walls. Alan gathered the 3 other security officers. They all carried standard firearms, pistols, rifles, and 1 shotgun. The Zarkonians said these wouldn't work against the Drathor, said Officer Ryan Miller, looking at his pistol doubtfully. The Zarkonians say a lot of things, Alan replied. They heard the docking bay doors being forced open. The Drathor had arrived. Alan positioned his team at key points. They didn't have to wait long. The first Drathor turned the corner. It was taller than a human, with red scaly skin and 4 yellow eyes. A shimmering field surrounded its body. An energy shield. It carried what looked like a glowing spear. Alan fired his rifle. To everyone's surprise, the bullets passed straight through the shield and hit the alien's chest. The Drathor fell with a shriek. How did that work? Ryan asked, shocked. Alan fired at another approaching alien with the same result. Their shields must be calibrated for energy weapons like the Zarkonians use. They weren't expecting physical bullets. For the next 3 hours, Alan's small team held off the Drathor invaders. The aliens seemed confused by the effectiveness of the human weapons. Every time they adjusted their shields to block bullets, the humans switched to different weapons or approaches. When an alien's shield blocked rifle rounds, Alan used his knife. When they protected against steel, Ryan used his aluminum baton. The Drathor couldn't adapt fast enough. Finally, a Zarkonian battle cruiser arrived. The remaining Drathor fled back to their ships. High Commander Vexlar himself came aboard the station. He looked at the dead Drathor and the exhausted but alive humans. Impossible, he said, examining a Drathor with bullet wounds. Their shields should have stopped your primitive weapons. Alan just smiled tiredly. Seems primitive has its advantages. Vexlar looked at Alan with new eyes. Perhaps we have misjudged you humans. Word of the Hope Point defense spread quickly. Humans celebrated Lieutenant Alan Cole and his team as heroes. The Zarkonians were less enthusiastic. Many refused to believe that simple bullets had defeated the Drathor. 2 weeks after the attack, a message arrived from the Zarkonian home fleet. They wanted to see human weapons in action for themselves. They called it a military exercise. Commander Olivia Martinez stood in the briefing room of the U.S. Defender. Her dark hair was cut short, and a small scar crossed her right eyebrow. As the head of Earth's Special Tactics Division, she had been chosen to lead the human demonstration team. This isn't just an exercise, she told her assembled team of 12. It's a test. The Zarkonians still don't believe our weapons are effective. Jack Powell, the weapons officer who had been mocked during the first contact, nodded. So we show them what we can do. Exactly, Olivia said. We bring everything. Sniper rifles, shotguns, pistols, knives, grenades, even bows and arrows. Bows and arrows? Asked Sergeant Frank Diaz, raising an eyebrow. Olivia smiled. Sometimes the oldest weapons are the most surprising. The next day, they docked with the Zarkonian warship Imperial Dawn. It was massive, nearly 5 times the size of Earth's largest vessel. High Commander Vexlar greeted them in the docking bay, surrounded by his officers. Commander Martinez, he said with a slight nod, we are curious about your methods at Hope Point. We're happy to demonstrate, Olivia replied. The Zarkonians had prepared a large training area within their ship. It featured various obstacles, targets, and even moving holographic enemies. Vexlar's weapons master, a tall Zarkonian named Tekfor, examined the human weapons with obvious distaste. These are museum pieces, he said, picking up a sniper rifle. We have not used projectile weapons in over 5,000 years. Sometimes old ideas still work, Olivia said calmly. The demonstration began with basic marksmanship. Frank Diaz showed his skill with a sniper rifle, hitting targets at distances that impressed even the skeptical aliens. Next came close-quarter combat. The humans used shotguns and pistols against moving targets, demonstrating their speed and precision. Interesting, Vexlar admitted. But these are just targets. They don't have shields or armor. Let's fix that, Olivia suggested. They set up new targets with actual Zarkonian shield technology. The aliens watched confidently, certain their shields would block everything. Jack Powell stepped up with a modified assault rifle. Standard bullets don't work well against your shields, he admitted, so we made some adjustments. He fired a burst. The special bullets slowed down just before hitting the shield, almost stopping, then pushed through slowly to hit the target behind it. Tekfor's eyes widened. How? Your shields are designed to stop objects moving at high velocity, Jack explained. These bullets decelerate just before impact, then push through at a speed your shields don't register as threats. The Zarkonians murmured among themselves, clearly disturbed. Olivia then demonstrated weapons that didn't use metal at all. Carbon fiber knives, ceramic projectiles, and even the promised bow with arrows made of a special polymer. Most advanced shields are calibrated for metal and energy, she explained as the arrows passed through another shield, not organic or polymer materials. By the end of the day, the Zarkonians were no longer smiling. Vexlar looked troubled. You have surprised us, Commander, he said finally. But these are just controlled demonstrations. Real combat is different. Then let's make it real, Olivia challenged. Set up a combat scenario. Your technology against ours. Vexlar considered this for a moment, then nodded. Very well. We have a training facility on a nearby moon. We will set up a fortress with our best defenses. If your team can capture it using only your primitive weapons, we will reconsider our assessment of human military capabilities. Olivia extended her hand. It's a deal. As they shook hands, Vexlar added, You have 1 day to prepare. The challenge begins tomorrow. The humans returned to their ship to prepare for the challenge. Olivia gathered her team in the U.S. Defender's planning room. Screens showed satellite images of the moon base they would attack tomorrow. "This won't be easy," she said, pointing to the fortress on the main screen. "The Zarkonians have set up energy shields, motion sensors, and automated defense turrets." Peter Rodriguez, the team's chief engineer, studied the images. He was a short man with quick hands and quicker eyes. His fingers tapped rapidly on his tablet as he took notes. "Their sensors are designed to detect energy signatures and fast-moving objects," he said, "but they might not look for slower, unpowered approaches." Lisa Brown, their communications specialist, nodded in agreement. "They rely too much on advanced technology. Their systems are complex but have simple weaknesses." Olivia turned to Daniel Grant, their tactical officer. "What's your take?" Daniel was the youngest member of the team but had a natural talent for strategy. "We can't match their technology, so we don't try to. We use what they consider outdated or primitive. They won't expect it." For the next several hours, the team worked on their plan. Peter modified their weapons and equipment. Lisa analyzed Zarkonian communication frequencies. Daniel mapped out approach routes and timing. As night fell on the moon base, Olivia checked in with each team member. Frank Diaz was cleaning his sniper rifle. "Modified bullets ready," he reported. "Slow-velocity penetrators and signal-blocking rounds." Jack Powell showed her his handiwork. Grenades filled with a special powder. "This will blind their sensors, but not ours," he explained. Peter had been the busiest, creating devices that looked like they came from Earth's past rather than its present. "Look at this," he said, holding up what appeared to be an old wind-up clock. "It creates a small electromagnetic pulse. No batteries, no electronics for them to detect." Lisa had built simple radio jammers using technology the Zarkonians would consider ancient. "They'll never scan for these frequencies," she said confidently. Daniel had spent hours studying the terrain around the fortress. "There's a path through these rocks," he explained, pointing to a narrow canyon. "Their sensors sweep over it, but don't penetrate down into it. We can move our whole team through undetected." Olivia nodded, impressed by her team's ingenuity. "Get some rest. Tomorrow we'll test everything we've prepared." Meanwhile, in the Zarkonian command center, Vexlar and Tekfor reviewed their defenses. "The humans cannot possibly breach these shields," Tekfor said confidently. "Our sensors will detect any approach. Our turrets will stop any attack." Vexlar wasn't so sure. "They surprised us before. Do not underestimate them." "High Commander, with respect, they are using weapons from our ancient past. It would be like fighting a modern army with sticks and stones." "Perhaps," Vexlar said. "But remember, their sticks and stones killed 6 Drathor warriors at Hope Point." As dawn approached, both sides made final preparations. The Zarkonians activated their advanced defense systems, creating an energy barrier around the fortress that glowed blue in the moon's dim light. Automated turrets scanned for threats, and sensors probed the surrounding area for any sign of approach. In the human camp, Olivia gathered her team for final instructions. They wore no powered armor, carried no energy weapons. Their equipment looked simple, even crude by Zarkonian standards. "They expect us to fail," Olivia told her team. "They think our weapons are primitive, our technology outdated. Today we show them that sometimes the old ways still work." She checked her watch. "It's time. Let's move out." As the humans disappeared into the lunar landscape, Vexlar watched on his monitors. "Now we will see what humans are truly capable of," he said quietly. The sun rose over the lunar landscape, casting long shadows across the rocky terrain. In the Zarkonian command center, Vexlar and his officers watched their monitors with growing confusion. "No sign of the humans," reported a sensor operator. "They should have started their approach by now." Tekfor smirked. Perhaps they realized the impossibility of their task. Just then, a guard burst into the room. "Sir, the human commander requests to speak with you." Vexlar activated the communication screen. Olivia Martinez's face appeared, looking calm and collected. "Hi, Commander," she said with a slight smile. "How are your sensors working this morning?" Vexlar frowned. "They are functioning perfectly. We see no sign of your team." "Look outside your north window," Olivia suggested. Vexlar turned to the window and froze. Standing on a ridge barely 100 meters from the fortress was Frank Diaz, waving casually at them. "Impossible," Tech 4 shouted. "The sensors show nothing." "Activate the defense turrets," Vexlar ordered. The turrets swiveled toward Frank, but before they could fire, they sparked and shut down. "What's happening?" Vexlar demanded. Outside, Peter Rodriguez had deployed his homemade electromagnetic pulse devices. They looked like simple mechanical toys, but they emitted precisely calibrated pulses that disrupted the turret's targeting systems. Meanwhile, on the eastern approach, Lisa Brown activated her radio jammers. They'd broadcast on frequencies the Zarkonians considered too primitive and unstable to use for communications. The jamming signals caused the fortress's communication grid to collapse in confusion. "We've lost contact with the perimeter guards," an officer reported, panic in his voice. Daniel Grant led a team through the narrow canyon he had identified. The Zarkonians had placed sensors above it, but never thought to look within its shadows. His team moved silently, using no powered equipment that might trigger alarms. "Where are they?" Vexlar asked, scanning the monitors that now showed mostly static. His answer came in the form of a series of small explosions around the base's energy shield generators. Jack Powell had placed specially designed charges that released clouds of metallic dust. The dust particles were too small to trigger the shield's defenses, but collectively created pathways for electricity to arc and short-circuit. As sections of the shield began to fail, the Zarkonians finally spotted the humans approaching from multiple directions. "Fire all weapons," Tech 4 ordered in desperation. But the remaining turrets couldn't lock onto the humans. Peter had modified their uniforms with materials that scattered sensor signals, making them appear as shifting, uncertain targets. Frank Diaz had positioned himself on high ground with his sniper rifle. He methodically fired at key sensor nodes with his special bullets. Each bullet traveled just under the speed threshold that would trigger the defensive systems. Olivia led the main assault team directly toward the main entrance. The Zarkonians expected a frontal attack to be suicide, but they hadn't counted on Jack's special grenades. He threw them in quick succession, each releasing a different countermeasure: smoke that blocked visual sensors, metallic chaff that confused radar, and sonic pulses that overloaded audio detection. In the chaos, Daniel's team reached the south wall undetected. They used simple grappling hooks, technology so old the Zarkonians had no defenses against it, to scale the wall. Inside the command center, Vexlar watched in disbelief as his screens went dark one by one. "This cannot be happening," Tech 4 whispered. "Their weapons are primitive. Their technology is outdated." The door to the command center slid open. Olivia Martinez stood there, holding not an energy weapon but a simple pistol. "Sometimes," she said, "primitive works just fine." Behind her, the rest of the human team secured the fortress. In less than 30 minutes, they had defeated every defense the Zarkonians had spent days preparing. Vexlar looked at Olivia with new respect. "It seems we have much to learn from humans." Olivia holstered her pistol. "And we have much to learn from you. The difference is, we've always known that." The journey back to the Zarkonian warship was silent. Vexlar and his officers had lost their usual air of superiority. They kept looking at the humans with new eyes, reassessing everything they thought they knew. Once aboard the Imperial Dawn, Vexlar called for a formal meeting. The large conference room had a circular table with the humans on one side and the Zarkonians on the other. "You have succeeded beyond any reasonable expectation," Vexlar began, his voice solemn. "I must understand how." Olivia nodded to Peter Rodriguez. The engineer placed several of his devices on the table. High Commander, your civilization advanced in a straight line, Peter explained. You developed energy weapons and never looked back. Humans took a different path. Peter picked up one of his simple EMP devices. We never abandoned older technologies. We kept improving them alongside new ones. Tech 4, still bitter from the defeat, scoffed. Are you suggesting your primitive approach is superior? Not superior, Peter said calmly. Different. Your energy weapons are more powerful than anything we have. But power isn't everything. Lisa Brown stepped forward with her radio equipment. Your communications are advanced but complex. Ours are simpler but harder to disrupt. You rely on perfect conditions. We expect problems and plan for them. She demonstrated how her old-fashioned radio still worked when placed inside a shielded container that blocked the Zarkonians' more advanced signals. Fascinating, said a Zarkonian scientist who had joined them. We never considered maintaining older technologies once we developed better ones. Daniel Grant spread a paper map on the table. The Zarkonians looked at it curiously, used to holographic displays. We train with maps that don't need power, Daniel explained. We learn to navigate using stars and landmarks. If our technology fails, we can still fight. Frank Diaz disassembled his rifle, showing its simple mechanics. This weapon has only a few moving parts. It can be repaired in the field with basic tools. How many parts are in your energy weapons? A Zarkonian weapons officer looked uncomfortable. Thousands, and they require specialized equipment to repair. Jack Powell added, our weapons evolved through thousands of years of humans fighting other humans. We had to be creative because our enemies were just as smart as we were. Vexlar nodded slowly, beginning to understand. Your history forced you to be adaptable. Exactly, Olivia said. For most of our history, we didn't have superior technology to rely on. We had to outthink our enemies, not overpower them. She walked to a window, looking out at the stars. When we met the Zarkonians, you saw our technology as primitive. But you missed something important. What did we miss? Vexlar asked quietly. That humans don't rely on technology alone. We rely on creativity, adaptability, and determination. Vexlar stood and approached Olivia. Commander Martinez, I owe you and all humans an apology. We judged your civilization based on a narrow view of advancement. He turned to his officers. We have much to learn from these humans. Their primitive approaches contain wisdom we have forgotten. Tech 4 still looked unconvinced. What can we possibly learn from them? Our science is centuries ahead of theirs. Vexlar smiled, a rare sight from the serious commander. Perhaps science isn't everything, weapons master. Perhaps there are other forms of advancement. He extended all four of his arms toward Olivia in a Zarkonian gesture of respect. Commander Martinez, I propose an exchange of knowledge. Your weapons specialists will teach ours about your methods, and we will share some of our technology with Earth. Olivia accepted the gesture with a nod. We would be honored, High Commander. As the meeting ended, Vexlar took Olivia aside. There is something else you should know. We've detected increased Drathor activity near your solar system. I fear they may be planning something. Olivia's expression grew serious. Then perhaps our new partnership will face a real test sooner than we expected. 3 months passed. Humans and Zarkonians worked together, sharing knowledge and technology. On Earth, engineers studied Zarkonian energy systems. On the Zarkonian homeworld, alien weapons masters learned about human combat tactics. Captain Eric Bennett, who had first met the Zarkonians, now commanded a joint defense force. He sat in his office on the space station Unity, built between Earth and Mars as a symbol of cooperation. Samantha Wright entered his office with a worried look. Captain, we've received an emergency signal from the Zarkonian border colonies. Eric stood up quickly. The Drathor. Samantha nodded. A full-scale invasion. 20 warships crossed into Zarkonian space. 5 more are heading toward our solar system. Alert all ships, Eric ordered, and contact High Commander Vexlar immediately. Within an hour, Vexillar's face appeared on the main screen of Unity's command center. His silver eyes showed rare concern. Captain Bennett, the situation is grave. The Drethor have developed new shield technology. Our energy weapons cannot penetrate them. What about kinetic weapons? Railguns? Missiles? Eric asked. We have not had time to fully integrate human weapons into our fleet, Vexillar admitted. Only a few ships have been retrofitted. Eric thought for a moment. Then we'll have to improvise. How quickly can your engineers modify more ships? With proper guidance, perhaps 1 week per vessel. We don't have weeks, Samantha said. The Drethor will reach Earth in 5 days. Eric looked at the tactical display showing the positions of all human and Zarkonian ships. Then we'll have to use what we have. I propose a joint fleet, your best ships combined with ours. Vexillar seemed unsure. Our ships are faster and better armored, but if our weapons cannot penetrate their shields, our weapons can, Eric said confidently, and we need your ship's speed and armor. Together, we have a chance. After some discussion, Vexillar agreed. Within 2 days, a combined fleet assembled near Jupiter. 5 advanced Zarkonian cruisers joined with 7 human vessels. Engineers worked around the clock to install railguns and missile systems on 2 of the alien ships. Commander Olivia Martinez boarded the Zarkonian flagship alongside Vexillar. Her team of specialists came with her to help operate the human weapons now mounted on the alien vessel. Will this work? Vexillar asked as they stood on the bridge, watching humans and Zarkonians working side by side. It has to, Olivia replied simply. Peter Rodriguez supervised the installation of modified railguns on the ship's hull. These should punch right through their adaptive shields. He explained to the Zarkonian engineers. The projectiles change velocity randomly as they fly, making them harder to block. Lisa Brown integrated human communication systems with the Zarkonian network. Now we'll have backup if their jammers hit us, she told Vexillar. On the 3rd day, scouts reported the Drethor fleet had increased speed. They would reach Earth in just 36 hours. We need to intercept them before they reach Earth, Eric said during the final briefing. We'll meet them near the orbit of Mars. Vexillar studied the battle plan. Our ships will engage first, drawing their fire and testing their shields. Then your vessels will attack with kinetic weapons. Eric nodded. And the 2 retrofitted Zarkonian cruisers will provide the surprise they won't expect. Alien ships firing human weapons. As the combined fleet moved into position, Samantha Wright worked with Zarkonian diplomats to coordinate the defense. This is more than just a battle, she told them. This is the first true test of our alliance. The fleet formed a defensive line near Mars. Officers on both human and Zarkonian ships prepared their crews for battle. Weapons were checked one final time. Communication channels were tested and secured. Drethor fleet detected, announced a sensor officer. 25 ships approaching at high speed. Vexillar and Eric exchanged looks across their separate command bridges, connected by video link. Ready all weapons, Eric ordered. For Earth and Zarkon, Vexillar added solemnly. The Drethor ships appeared on the horizon, black shapes against the stars, coming to test the new alliance. The Drethor fleet emerged from the darkness of space, their black ships reflecting no light. They moved in perfect formation, confident in their superior numbers and new shield technology. Their powering weapons, Lisa Brown reported from her communication station. Vexillar gave the first order. Zarkonian cruisers, advance and engage. Test their shields. 3 Zarkonian ships moved forward, their blue energy weapons firing brilliant beams toward the Drethor vessels. The beams hit the enemy shields and scattered harmlessly, just as Vexillar had feared. No effect, Tech4 reported. Their new shields are blocking everything. The Drethor returned fire. Red beams sliced through space, hitting one of the Zarkonian ships. Its shields flared and held, but barely. We can't withstand many direct hits, Vexillar warned. Eric's voice came over the communication channel. Now it's our turn. All human vessels commence firing. Target their lead ships. The human fleet launched a barrage of missiles and railgun projectiles. The Drathor seemed unconcerned at first, expecting their shields to block these primitive weapons easily. But the missiles changed speed mid-flight, confusing the shield calibrations. The railgun rounds vibrated at frequencies that disrupted the shield harmonics. Explosions blossomed across 3 Drathor ships as the human weapons found their marks. "Their shields are vulnerable to kinetic weapons," Olivia shouted, just as we predicted. The Drathor quickly adapted, adjusting their shields to block the incoming projectiles. The next volley of human weapons had less effect. "They're learning," Eric warned, changing their shield frequencies. Vexlar turned to Peter Rodriguez. "Now is the time for your modified weapons." Peter nodded and activated the specially designed railguns mounted on the 2 retrofitted Zarkonian cruisers. These weapons fired rounds that changed their properties in flight, sometimes fast, sometimes slow, sometimes spinning, sometimes tumbling. The Drathor shields couldn't adapt quickly enough to the constantly changing projectiles. More explosions erupted across their fleet as the modified weapons found their targets. "It's working," Tech4 exclaimed, his earlier doubts forgotten. But the Drathor were not defeated yet. They regrouped and concentrated their fire on the 2 modified Zarkonian ships, recognizing the unique threat they posed. "Our shields are failing," reported the captain of one of the retrofitted cruisers. "All ships, protect those cruisers," Eric ordered. Human and Zarkonian vessels moved to defend their most valuable assets. The battle became a chaotic dance of ships, energy beams, and projectiles. On Vexillar's flagship, Olivia Martinez had an idea. "We need to board their command ship," she said suddenly. "Board them?" Vexillar looked shocked. "That's suicide." "Not if we use both our technologies together," Olivia insisted. "Your shields can get us close. Our weapons can get us inside." After a brief discussion, they agreed. A small team led by Olivia and Alan Cole prepared for the dangerous mission. They wore Zarkonian armor, but carried human weapons. A small shuttle launched from Vexillar's flagship, protected by the combined fire of the Allied fleet. It approached the massive Drathor command ship, dodging enemy fire. "Their hangar shields are calibrated for energy weapons," Alan observed as they approached. "Perfect." The shuttle crashed through the hangar shields and landed hard on the deck. Drathor warriors rushed to intercept them, but they weren't prepared for the combination of Zarkonian armor and human firearms. Olivia's team fought their way to the ship's control center. Drathor weapons couldn't penetrate their alien armor, while their bullets and explosives made short work of the enemy. They reached the bridge and captured the Drathor commander. With their leader taken, confusion spread through the enemy fleet. The combined human Zarkonian force pressed the advantage, disabling or destroying ship after ship. The remaining Drathor vessels retreated, vanishing back into deep space. On the bridge of his flagship, Vexillar watched the enemy flee with satisfaction. Eric's face appeared on his communication screen, tired but triumphant. "We did it," Eric said simply. "Together," Vexillar agreed. "Your primitive weapons and our advanced technology. It seems we are stronger together than apart." When Olivia returned with her team and the captured Drathor commander, Vexillar greeted her with a formal bow, all 4 arms extended in the highest form of Zarkonian respect. "Commander Martinez," he said, "it seems I was wrong about human weapons. They are not primitive at all. They are simply different. And sometimes, different is exactly what you need."